Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. In today's video, it's going to be an updated draft ahead of that Game Week 1 deadline on Sun Dream Team Fantasy. We are now less than 1 week away, so what better time to do that? We're also going to be diving deep into the data as well to potentially look at a few different options. Now, if you do enjoy today's piece of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And without further ado, let's crack on with the video. So in today's video, we are indeed going to be looking at my brand new draft. Now, I was on the Dream Team Tonic podcast not too long ago with a new draft, but this is a new draft. So there's lots of news, there's lots of bits and pieces been updated due to their feedback on there, due to looking at bits and pieces data-wise, and just how the fixtures have fallen. So we're going to get to that a little later on in the video. First and foremost, so if you do enjoy today's piece of content, just show it some love. We've grown massively on the channel over the last 2 to 3 weeks since the game came out. We're getting close to 1,800 subscribers with the long-term goal of potentially in 2,000. So it'd be greatly appreciated if you could show it some love down below. Now, first and foremost, we do have the fixture ticket on the screen, and this is Game Week 1, I believe, up to Game Week 5, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is from the Dream Team Tonic podcast and just their website in general. Currently, as things stand, the Dream Team website and app is currently incorrect. Now, they did send out a piece of information warning us players it's not updating with regards to the League Cup games and just those kind of fixtures being added. And also they have warned us that any players that score fixtures in the League Cup games in Game Week 1 where it is a double, so teams like Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham, Brentford, etc., as you can see on here, their scores might not be updated straight away, but there is no need to fret. We won't lose those points and they will be updated to our sides and teams in the not too distant future after those games have finished. So the website isn't still fully complete. The Dream Team one, they did change handlers, I believe, and the people who run the site over the summer, which is why we didn't get the Dream Team mode for the World Cup. But they've put it out there and it is still a work in progress kind of thing. So that is definitely something to know. But as I mentioned, this is a fixture ticker from the lads over at the Dream Team Tonic podcast. This is our own website. Last year, it was not only FPL. The season before that, it was FF stuff. They've merged together. And this is part of their free part on the website. There is paid services. I think there's one for £4 and one for £8, different levels. If you dive deep into the data like me, it is a fantastic website. So go over there, check it out. We're also going to be covering FPL Joe stuff as well in the next slide. But for the fixture ticker part of this, as you can see, there's a few teams to target. There's been a few upgraded fixtures, and it's just a lot easier to see. So for Arsenal at first, they've got Coventry in Game Week 1, and Game Week 2, Aston Villa away, and then Game Week 3, which is where the Champions League fixtures do come into place. Unfortunately, we won't know the sides that each team plays in the Champions League until after the Game Week 1 deadline is finished. I had a little look, and I do think it is Friday the 28th of August that the draw takes place. So if you are picking an Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, United or Villa asset, you won't know that fixture until the deadline has passed for Game Week 1, which is a little bit annoying because I originally did have a double Arsenal defence on the last draft that I built, especially going into that Coventry side and that Coventry game, I should say. But with Villa away, Chelsea at home, and then a potential tricky game in the Champions League, despite it being a double, maybe 2 Arsenal defensive assets isn't the way to go forward. Then in Game Week 4, I believe that is Sunderland and a League Cup game. So the Champions League teams have a Champions League double in Game Week 3 and then a League Cup double in Game Week 4. And then it's a single in Game Week 5. And then we do go to a 3-week international break, which is why this set of fixtures is quite nice to look at. Once that international break has been and gone, then I think it's just a nice little reset period. Manchester City, Bournemouth at home in Game Week 1. It does look like Erling Haaland is going to be back for that. The good thing for Arsenal is we do see Arsenal and Man City, that is, we do see both sides in the Community Shield this Sunday. So potentially we do get a more insightful look into how many minutes those players can potentially play going into Game Week 1. Crystal Palace away in Game Week 2, and then a nice tasty double for them in Game Week 3 of Coventry at home, and then a Champions League double to accompany that. The Manchester derby away to Man United at Old Trafford. Pretty tricky fixture for City over the past few years. Also a League Cup double in there for good measure. Then Sunderland at home in Game Week 5. For Liverpool, of course, we do tend to target these European sides, but with the double in Game Week 1 for a few League Cup fixtures, they're also prime suspects as well. So I'm not going to go through all 20 teams. I'm just going to try and pick out some that do stand out. Liverpool away to Newcastle on the opening day. I see this being a very high scoring game, 2-2, 3-3, that kind of one. Forest at home in Game Week 2, Ipswich away, and a Champions League game in Game Week 3. So maybe someone like a Virgil van Dijk could come into play there, especially considering the lack of defenders that they've currently got. Fulham at home and a League Cup game in game week 4, and then Bournemouth away in game week 5. Manchester United, a tasty double up first, Hull away in game week 1 and Ipswich at home in game week 2, so 2 promoted sides back to back. Everton away in game week 3, accompanied with Champions League football, something that Man United didn't even have any European football last year, so it's quite a jump for them. I'll be intrigued to see how just their squad gets stretched across midweek to weekend to midweek, so on and so forth. Does someone like Bruno Fernandes get slightly reduced minutes this season? He's into his 30s. He did pick up an injury last year. Granted, it was a hamstring injury, and he was back within, I think, a week or so. But that Manchester City side, of course, they do have the Manchester Derby in game week 4 with a League Cup double, and then Fulham away in game week 5. Villa are the other Champions League team. Of course, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Sunderland and Brighton are all in Europe. So they have their League Cup double in game week 3 and then their European double in game week 4. So it does flip a little bit for them. Moving on to the sides that do have the League Cup double in game week 1, lots of double talk. That is why we do target these fixtures. Chelsea at home to Luton, as well as away to Fulham in game week 1. Of course, the Fulham away game is the League, Luton is the League Cup game. Newcastle, Liverpool at home and West Brom at home in the League Cup. Tottenham, Brentford away and Charlton at home in the League Cup. Brentford, I believe that's Tottenham at home and Birmingham at home. For Everton, they do have a nice tasty double at home to Crystal Palace, then away to Preston. I've seen it, and I do think Everton fans might be in the away end at Goodison Park, which would be quite ironic considering, of course, they left a few years back now. Leeds, another prime suspect and a prime candidate going into game week 1. Forest away in the league and Forest away in the League Cup, followed by Brentford at home in game week 2, which does mean their players might have the potential to start 3 fixtures across those 2 game weeks. And the last team that I will cover here is Nottingham Forest. Of course, Fulham, Coventry, Ipswich and Hull do both have their doubles respectively in League. Sorry, not League 1, in game week 1 in that League Cup one. But for Nottingham Forest, we know Oliver Glasner is now their manager. We saw what he did at Crystal Palace with regards to minutes for their strongest players. Pretty much every time we saw him, Mark Gay was playing, Daniel Munoz was playing, Tyrick Mitchell was playing across that back line. And up front, Ismail Assar, you had Mateta, you had quality players across the pitch. And hopefully that is going to be the case for Forest as well. Leeds at home in the Premier League on the opening day. Leeds at home in the League Cup, which in my opinion has a very strong possibility to play their best players in that game. Just a shame it's Liverpool away in game week 2. So if we do go for these Forest players for that tasty double in game week 1, and we're picking defensive assets, is going to Liverpool away to Anfield, but away at Anfield I should say in game week 2, the most optimum fixture for a clean sheet. I think it's maybe one of them ones where we're hoping to pick up extra bits and pieces such as bonus points, tackle points, and perhaps a shot on target here and there. A clean sheet would be really nice. They did pick up one last year. They won 3-0 away to Liverpool, but it's not necessarily a clean sheet fixture I'm targeting in that one. Then it's Tottenham at home and then a potential League Cup 3rd round game as well. So if if Forest do start strong, pick up a couple of wins against Leeds in the league and the cup, they will end up having another League Cup game. So certain players could have 5 starts over the first 3 game weeks, which would be really ideal. Which team out of these on the list are you targeting going into game week 1 and maybe slightly more longer term? Shifting over to the next piece of data, and we've got the projected goals from the Premier League teams. Unfortunately, this is only from Premier League fixtures, so that's from game week 1 over to game week 5. And then we've got the attacking data and the defensive data across the board, so hopefully it can do pretty well. As we can see, Man City and Arsenal do top the charts across the board. So for Man City, they've got 2.39 expected goals in that opening game at home to Bournemouth. Is that a surprise? Absolutely not. Do I think that could change ever so slightly, especially considering they're under new management? Enzo Maresca isn't going to be the same sort of manager that Pep is. Yes, he is a descendant of him with regards to just tactical nous. Mikel Arteta, also another one of those players. But when we're looking at that Man City side, personally, Haaland was always the most nailed, and then the attacking ones around that was always a little bit difficult to nail their colours to the mast. It does look like they do have 3 wingers going into the season: Semenyo, Doku and Savinho. Maybe Foden can play out there. We've seen Bernardo Silva play out there previously, but of course he has now gone to Barcelona, I believe it is. So for Man City, the options aren't looking as vast as they used to. 1.97 expected goals in Game Week 2 away to Crystal Palace. Then in Game Week 3, as you can see, there's 3 gold tier attacking ones on that list, and there's a reason for that. Game Week 3, they do play Coventry at home, and it's exactly the same for Arsenal in Game Week 1. Projected to score, I think that's 2.61 goals. If you're going to target that fixture, of course, the good thing for Arsenal, both defensively and attacking wise, we get to see not only the Community Shield on Sunday, time of this coming out, I think it should be Saturday morning, so it should be the following day. We do also get to see the lineup going into Game Week 1 as well, because the deadline doesn't shut until that game kicks off. It's just if we think those Arsenal assets are going to be nailed in Game Weeks 2, 3, 4 and beyond. For Arsenal, defensive wise and attacking wise, as a fan, it's pretty hard to guess if they're going to continue to play. If I had to hazard a guess with regards to what team they're going to put out in not only the Community Shield but also Game Week 1, I'd say David Raya in goal, the back four Ben White, Mosquera, Gabriel and Calafiori. In midfield, Bruno Guimaraes at the base of it, Lewis Skelly and Odegaard as the two in front. With, I think, Madueke on the right, I've seen a lot of people predict Max Downman. Then Kai Havertz up front, especially in the Community Shield. And then Schollis out on that left-hand side. So for Arsenal, attacking wise, there's just too much variation for me to pick specifically anyone out of that front four. Currently, if I was to pick one, it would either be Schollis or Martin Odegaard. He had a really poor season last year, was constantly injured in and out of that side. I think there was 3 consecutive home games in a row he didn't even make it to 45 minutes, but in pre-season he has looked on it, and Mikel Arteta has said both he and Bukayo Saka have a higher ceiling this year to hit with regards to numbers and performances, because last year they didn't quite hit the numbers that they did in the previous campaigns. As we can see for Liverpool, once again predicted to be a very strong attacking outlet. 1.92 expected goals in the opening day. I think that is away to Newcastle, but they are the only team that are projected to score over 2 goals in 3 consecutive fixtures in the Premier League, and of course in Game Week 3 they will have a Champions League game as a double with it as well. So for Liverpool in Game Week 2, Forest at home, then Ipswich away in Game Week 3, so that is why those numbers are so high. And for Manchester United, those first 2 fixtures attacking wise are definitely some to target, whether that's Bruno Fernandes by himself or maybe him being accompanied by maybe Matheus Cunha or Brian Mbeumo. It doesn't look like Sesko is going to be fit for the opening day. He didn't travel with the pre-season squad on the Thursday, that is. So 2.08 and 2.33 expected goals for Man United away to Hull and then at home to Ipswich. Moving over to the defensive data, unsurprisingly, especially considering what happened last year with regards to the best defences, Arsenal are projected to be the best once again, especially over the first 5 Premier League game weeks. And I'd also throw it in there as well with regards to the Champions League fixture for them. 59% chance of a clean sheet at home to Coventry on the opening day. We get to see the defensive assets. It's going to be so tempting to pick 2, maybe 3 Arsenal defenders, including the goalkeeper, of course, with David Raya. It's just how nailed we think they're going to be from Game Week 2 onwards. Also in Game Week 4, over 50% again for a clean sheet for them. For Manchester City, they are projected to be the second best defence going across the first 5 game weeks in the Premier League. Once again, the Champions League is not yet being drawn, so we don't know who their game is going to be as a double in Game Week 3 or the League Cup game in Game Week 4. But similar to Arsenal, I just struggle to nail who's going to play in that Man City back line. At left back, it could be Aït-Nouri, it could be Nico O'Reilly. Over at right back, it could be Kuzinov. Doubt it'd be Rico Lewis, but Matheus Nunes had that position on lockdown last year. And then you're looking at the centre-back position. Gvardiol is priced really high in my opinion, considering he only played half of the year. So Gvardiol and Mark Guéhi fighting for that left centre-back role. Kuzinov and Ruben Dias fighting for that right centre-back role. Just so many unpredictable minutes, and it would be really nice, especially going into Game Week 3 where they do play Coventry at home and the Champions League double, to find out who are the players that are going to get the most minutes. In my opinion, I think it's going to be Nico O'Reilly at left back, Gvardiol at left centre half. I think it's going to be Ruben Dias at right back. Maybe Mark Guéhi, but Mark Guéhi does play on the left a little bit more. That's the only position I'm a little bit unsure on, or even more than the rest, I should say. And then I do think Nunes continued playing at right back. It's just how Maresca inverts those fullbacks and wants to place his team attacking wise, that is. And then Man United are potentially the other one of 4 defences to target if you're not going to target specifically those League Cup games, because as you can see, Nottingham Forest and Leeds, who both have a very favourable Game Week 1 double, both playing against each other twice, of course. They don't even appear on here with regards to clean sheet percentages. So long term, those two teams maybe not ones to keep. But for game weeks 1 up until game weeks 3, Leeds and Forest I'm talking about here specifically, they might be really good assets for our team. But Man United going to target those opening 2 defensively against Ipswich and Hull. So Hull away on the opening day, Ipswich at home in game week 2. And then if you look at Liverpool's numbers, they're actually quite surprisingly good considering how poor they were last year and how little defensive options they do currently have. They've got Orojo, I believe it is pronounced, from Barcelona on loan, so we do think he's going to play at centre-back, whilst Xhaka and Leone do get to full fitness. So only a 26% chance of a clean sheet in the opening day away to Newcastle. I do think that should be slightly higher. Then from game week 2 until game week 4, 3 greens back-to-back, so similar to their attacking data where it was dark green for those game weeks 2 to 4, they've gone for light green defensively. Percentage-wise, which does mean they're over 35% 3 games in a row. Nottingham Forest at home in game week 2, Ipswich away, and the Champions League game in game week 3. So it would be nice to get the Champions League game percentage on there, but we don't know who they're going to play, and we don't know what kind of lineup Liverpool are going to put out yet. Van Dijk is going to be an ever-present. I think Kirkes is going to be the starting left-back, and I do think Frimpong, fitness permitting, will get a few more minutes at right-back this year. So they are the best 4 teams to target defensively. Surprisingly, Leeds, and more surprisingly to me, Forest are on here specifically for that game week 1. But leave a comment down below what team you're attacking wise for their forwards, and what teams you are targeting defensive wise. Are you going to pick a fullback or a more nailed centre half? So here is my latest Sun Dream Team fantasy draft, and as you can see, a lot has changed since the original one a couple of weeks back. We're going for a 4-5-1 currently, and I will explain the reasons behind that. It was very nearly a 5-4-1 Christmas tree formation in August, but I just couldn't quite bring myself to do that so early on in the season. There is still 0.5 in the bank, I believe, so let's get onto the picks. Let's get onto why certain players haven't made the cut. First up, Robin Royce in goal. He's 3 million in value, and he is the cheapest European goalkeeper. Now, we've seen many a time targeting the goalkeepers for League Cup round 2 fixtures is just impossible. Backup goalkeepers get the minutes, first team goalkeepers don't get played, and you end up with a goalkeeper that you're just constantly gambling on further cup minutes that just never come. So for me, Royce, they've got Ipswich away on the opening day, and then Fulham at home in game week 2, Brentford away in game week 3 with a League Cup game in game week 4, and then it's their Europa League tie in game week 4 onwards with the Premier League double, which is quite nice for Sunderland. Just a shame they don't get that Champions League double like other teams do, that 1 game week earlier. But for the long term for Sunderland, I do think for that price as well, he's going to be a really good asset. Moving into the back line now, I do have 4 defenders. Previously, I did have a double up on that Arsenal defence. Maybe it's a bit reactionary seeing us against Como, I believe it was, in the pre-season friendly. But once again, the Arsenal defence looks so poor. I've gone for Gabriel ahead of players such as Mosquera, Ben White, Calafiori, who is going to be very popular going into the opening day. I just don't trust their minutes going forward, especially with that Champions League double in game week 3. We're being constantly linked to a player that can play right back and right centre back, so clearly there's not a lot of trust in either Timber coming back from his injury, Ben White being able to stay fit, or Mosquera being enough of a veteran. He's still very young in that Arsenal side, and he's trying to replace, in my opinion, the best centre half in the world in William Saliba, and it's just not going to happen. He's still a young lad, and they're trying to target Konsa and Quansah. I'm just very worried. Gabriel is going to be an ever-present. He missed an absolute sitter of a header in the opening minutes of that friendly, and that just straight away reminded me of what kind of player he is. He's going to pick up bonus. He's going to get attacking returns. He only had 3 goals in the Premier League last year, which I actually find quite low. He's a little bit on the expensive side, and that is the only downside to him. It's 5.5 million in price. The other Arsenal defensive assets are 4.5. So you've got you've got Calafiori, Mosquera, and Ben White all at that 4.5 million price point. So there could be a million saving there. With the extra 0.5 I do have in the bank, that is 1.5 that could be saved and maybe put into a position elsewhere on the pitch. Now my other defenders are as follows. I've gone Ole Aina of Nottingham Forest, 2.5 million in value. We do think he's going to play as one of the wing backs in that Oliver Glasner side, and we saw what Tyrick Mitchell did and Daniel Munoz did at Crystal Palace. I'm hoping he gets the double in game week 1. He did have a big injury at the start of last year, which does leave me a little bit worried with regards to will he start both games in such short succession. And they are targeting a wing back, I believe. But with it being so early in the season, I think Savona, I believe it's pronounced, is still injured with a knee-related one. I think he picked it up towards the back end of last season. So I don't see too many options in that Forest side that could come in instead of him. Nico Williams probably would be a better side, and maybe that's where I could put that extra 1.5 million. Take Gabriel to Mosquera, get that 1.5 million, take it from Oleana, bump it up to Nico Williams, who is a little bit more durable, can play on both sides of the defence, which might mean he does get the double in game week 1 and more minutes. So that is definitely something to note. He was really good for bonus, he was really good for tackle points, and with Leeds at home in both fixtures, I'm hoping for a clean sheet in either one. Both would be, of course, fantastic, especially with regards to price rises. Now, next up, I've gone Luke Shaw. This could be Harry Maguire, but I've gone for Luke Shaw. It looks like their targeted attack of Lewis Hall at left back, I had to think for a minute there, has failed. So they aren't yet bringing in a left back. Luke Shaw played 38 games in a row in the Premier League last year. You look at those starting lineups and starting fixtures for Manchester United, Hull away and then Ipswich at home, with a Champions League double of Everton and a Champions League game in game week 3. I think he's going to start all 4, but that can of course change. This is Luke Shaw we're talking about. The man got injured putting on his shin pad once upon a time. That's the level of fitness that he did have. Was last year an outlier. Since he joined Man United, he's rarely stayed fit. I just think those fixtures for Man United at the start of the season can't be looked past. And next up, we've gone for James Tarkowski. Now, this was a very fresh one into the draft, but I've looked at some of their lineups from the start of last season. I don't think Jared Branthwaite plays in that cup tie in the League Cup second round, so that does leave the options a little bit slim on the ground. Patterson and O'Brien both play at right back. Of course, O'Brien can play centre half as well if need be. Then you've got Michael Keane, Tarkowski, and as I mentioned, I don't think Branthwaite will play. He's being put on his own individual fitness programme going into the pre-season, especially after what happened last year. So Tarkowski, I do think he's going to start both games for Everton at the start of this campaign. Crystal Palace at home isn't the best, especially considering Palace's attacking threat with Saar, Mateta and Pino. But it's that League Cup game. Now, I did want to throw in a few extra League Cup teams in here just to try and get ahead of the curve with regards to points. But they're playing Preston away, and David Moyes is not going to want to take that game lightly. And I do think Tarkowski gets a start in both of them. Branthwaite won't start. O'Brien could play right back. He could play centre half. I'd expect Michael Keane to play in that fixture. It's just who plays that right back role. And Tarkowski did play in the second round last year. I started with O'Brien. He didn't start that game, and straight away I was behind on points to the teams that did have him in instead. So that's the back four and goalkeeper. Now we're moving it into the midfielders and attackers. Now, first and foremost, I won't waste too much time. I've gone for Erling Haaland up front, and I've gone for Bruno Fernandes in midfield. Haaland's ownership is currently over 80%, I believe. He's 8.5 million. He's just going to start the season. If he doesn't get any minutes in the Community Shield, this draft has to be torn to pieces, and it will be starting from fresh. Same with Bruno Fernandes. I think his ownership is only between 40 and 50% currently, which does surprise me massively, considering he was averaging between 7 and 8.5 points per game, even in single game weeks last year. Hull away on the opening day, Ipswich at home in game week 2. We spoke about it with regards to the fixtures when we was talking about Luke Shaw. Bruno Fernandes is going to play pretty much every minute of every game unless he picks up an injury. We've seen already in that Manchester United side, Benjamin Sesko's gone down with an injury. Mason Mount, unsurprisingly, has gone down with yet another injury. So their numbers in that number 10 role are dwindling slightly. Not that it would ever matter when it comes to Bruno Fernandes. If he's fit, he's going to be starting. Now, for the other 4 midfield options, I've gone slightly rogue. I've gone for Bruno Guimaraes. Now, I wanted a bit of an Arsenal attacking coverage in here. I could go for Bukayo Saka. So I did have this draft a little bit differently before. I had a 4 million defender in there. And then I did have Bukayo Saka in instead of Bruno Guimaraes. So Gabriel came out for the 4 million defender. Bruno Guimaraes got bumped up to Bukayo Saka. Now, we've heard from Mikel Arteta that Zubimendi, Saka and Declan Rice will all be in the Community Shield squad. I just need to see how many minutes they've got. And I do want to leave this draft a little bit flexible, because if we go into that Coventry game and we see Saka starting at 5.5 million, he's just going to have to make his way into my draft. I do think he still gets reduced minutes, taken off prior to that hour mark, maybe just after 60 minutes. But I would gladly take 60 minutes of Saka against Coventry on the opening day, with Villa away, Chelsea, and the Champions League game in game week 3. And also, we've been told apparently Declan Rice and Saka's injuries have cleared up a little bit over the summer as well. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. So currently, I've got Bruno Guimaraes in there. It's not going to be on corners when Scholes is on the pitch, which did surprise me a little bit. He's going to pick up bonus points. It looks like he's going to pick up the odd tackle point. I'd like an Arsenal attacker a little bit further forward, and maybe Scholes could well be that guy. I think it's just that new shiny toy mode with regards to Bruno Guimaraes that maybe edges him out over a couple of the other Arsenal attacking assets. I won't go near Gyökeres, I won't go near Havertz. They are going to be chopped and changed across the season. The other three midfielders, I've gone for Jeremy Doku. Similar to other players in this side, it depends on how many minutes he gets in the Community Shield. If he starts on the bench, he's going to be coming out my draft. He's a bonus points monster. But if he's not starting the game, I don't want to risk those minutes going into game week 1. I will re-look at game week 3 when Man City have Coventry and that Champions League double. Maybe see how that Man City side has progressed in just a few game weeks under Maresca. If he's in the side, he's going to be in a lot of our Dream Team drafts this year. As I mentioned, bonus point monster. Did pick up a few attacking returns towards the back end of last year. Only 5 million. Will stay in the draft if he starts on Sunday. And the other two, we've got Gibbs White, similar to Ole Aina. I think Gibbs White starts both games in game week 1. 2 games at home to Leeds in the League and League Cup. And also just how we finished last year. I don't know how he didn't go to the World Cup with that form. If he can continue that and show similar to what the other number 10s have done under Glasner at Crystal Palace form-wise, mainly Ismail Assar, he could be on for another fantastic season. It's just a shame Forest don't have European football, which does mean after game week 3 he will most likely leave my team at the very latest. Then I've gone for Dewsbury Hall. This could easily be Iliman Ndiaye, who is on penalties currently for Everton, but targeting that League Cup double in game week 1, as we spoke about with regards to Tarkowski. I think this is the riskiest position in my team for his price point. I've looked around, I've looked at a few Brighton assets in there, but they do have the qualifiers for the Conference League. Minte, I believe it's pronounced, is out for 2 to 3 months with his injury that he's picked up in pre-season. Matoma is still not fit, so Brighton assets were off the cards. And Dewsbury Hall, he's very durable. He could play deeper in that midfield, especially with Garner still potentially not being fit, and we haven't yet seen Norgard in any of their pre-season squads. So Dewsbury Hall can play in that number 8 role, he can play the number 10 role, and I think he is trusted. We know he's going to play against Crystal Palace on the opening day. It's just if I think he gets those minutes against Preston in the double. And also for Everton, as I spoke about, going into game week 2, they've got Bournemouth away. It's just also playing Man United at home in game week 3. He is a very bits and pieces kind of player. He's going to pick up shots on target. He's going to pick up bonus points occasionally, especially tackle points. He was quite fond of a booking when I had him at the start of last year. But as you can see, I've only got one attacker currently. And I spoke about it on social media. I don't see these European attackers being too great or too much that we're looking at them at the minute. Arsenal-wise, I can't tell you as an Arsenal fan who's going to start the first 3 game weeks, whether it's Havertz or Gyökeres. You're looking over at Liverpool. Ekitike, of course, is out until the new year. Alexander Isak, can he pick up the form that he had at Newcastle? Because if he continues his form from last year with Liverpool, he's just going to be a no-go once again. I do think the second best attacker to have in our teams European-wise currently is Ollie Watkins, and his fixtures are as follows. Brighton away in game week 1, Arsenal at home in game week 2, which is probably why it's putting me off a little bit. He didn't start the Super Cup either. But then you look at Villa's fixtures in game week 3, away to Hull, and the Champions League game as well. Something to note with regards to Aston Villa, they have picked up 2 injuries. The young lad who played in the European Super Cup, who did get the goal, he is out until at least September, we believe. And also Joao Gomez in midfield is also out for between 2 to 4 weeks as well, which does make their team a little bit weaker, but maybe potentially boost Watkins' minutes up, especially coming back off his break during the mid-season after the World Cup, that is. So for me, Watkins is probably the best one afterwards with regards to the European teams. You look at Chelsea, do you think someone like João Pedro is going to play? He's going to play Fulham in the Premier League away, but is he going to play Luton when they've got other players in those positions? Could he come on and get some minutes potentially? But with Arsenal away in game week 3 as part of that other double in the League Cup, I don't think he might be the prime candidate, but he's certainly on my short list just in case. So this is my current draft. Leave a comment down below on how your current drafts are. less than a week away until that deadline shuts. Let's move over to the outro. That does indeed conclude today's video. If you have enjoyed, please do hit the subscribe button down below. I don't know if you can tell, it's very, very late here. Due to the heat and the weather, I've had to record this 4 separate occasions. I started recording it on Friday afternoon going into the evening, and I've had to finish it at 1 o'clock on Saturday morning. So getting it edited and turned around for a 7 o'clock or 7 a.m. upload on Saturday is going to be very difficult, but this heat is madness. If you have enjoyed today's piece of content and the brand new draft, do hit the subscribe button down below. We're on the road to 1,800 subscribers with the long-term big goal of potentially hitting 2,000 before the start of the season. Let's see how close we can get. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the bell notification down below so you don't miss an upload in your sub boxes. The league is starting in less than a week, so these drafts do have to be finalised in the not too distant future. Hit the hype points if you are excited for a brand new season of Dream Team here on the channel and of course on the app. We're going to be covering everything across the board. We're going to be covering data, player performances and the leagues as well. If you do want to join my GB Fantasy Football League, the code is down there. I should have mentioned that at the start. It's completely free to join, and if you are in the top 10 for points for the game week or top 10 for the points in the overall season, you will appear in an upload on the channel in the future. Just got to get back used to saying that once again. It's been a little while. So thank you very much for watching today's video. It's been a very hot one, and you will be seeing me in a new video very soon. See you later, everyone.